such a candidate.
I don't care. I don't care. I don't care if they put a goat in running Canada. It's better than what we got right now. I'm happy to put a goat in Parliament, and we just listen to that goat nay, yes or no. It's better than what we have right now. Trudeau has killed Canada. The amount of capital that has left Canada in the last 8.5 years, the GDP per capita, the collapse of investment in Canada, it's all on him. He owns it. That guy has damaged our country in such a brutal fashion, it's going to take decades to fix it. It's so important that he get out of there. Please leave us alone. Please leave. Please. His own party is on their knees begging him to leave. He's got to go. We have to fix the country.
My girl just lost a day ago. Like, damn.
It might be the end of American bureaucracy.
Our bureaucracy really is in fundamental peril.
The foundations of American bureaucracy under attack.
They want to destroy our bureaucracy.
We are a bureaucracy in danger.
We're watching an election where people are on the ballot openly advocating the end of bureaucracy.
That's what Republicans are doing, attacking bureaucracy, attempting to destroy bureaucracy, and they're doing it with glee.
This is the end of bureaucracy in America.
When will America stop sleepwalking towards the end of bureaucracy?
Right. It's Democrats versus, as Bill Kristol says, the end of bureaucracy.
We are essentially, as Neil put it, one vote away from sort of the end of bureaucracy as we know it.
I think our bureaucracy and the stability of that bureaucracy is really the thing on the ballot and really so important.
I quite frankly,
I don't know what to say.
Because we got to get into that. Welcome, everybody, to the front line with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, Joe Rossadillo. Let's go way in the breach. Thursday nights, 9 o'clock Eastern time, like we always do. Lot to talk about, a lot of clips, a lot of outrages, not the least of which are those first three clips we played. Let's start here, okay? Kevin O'Leary and Canada, okay? Kevin O'Leary is not, last time I checked, I don't know a ton about him, does not strike me as an ideologue.
No.
I might be an ideologue. I might say that I am. I think I'm practical in a lot of ways, but I have certain ideals that I won't compromise on. Kevin O'Leary doesn't strike me as he's a businessman. And he says, forget about Canada. Forget about it for the next, 8 years? And that's if they could get Justin Trudeau out now. That's not including how much more time, much longer it will take if, in fact, Justin Trudeau, they don't get rid of Justin Trudeau. So let's start there because you know more as an American about Canada than most people. And last year, you really did a lot of coverage of Trudeau and everything he was doing. I'm going to throw it over to you, Joe, not because you're a Trudeau hater. The guy has wrecked his country.
Well, he's the perfect example of what a true globalist is. He's a true believer, and he destroyed the middle class. Globalism destroys the middle class, and Kevin O'Leary is laying it out perfectly. He destroyed the middle class, and I got news for you. America, we dodged a bullet because that would have happened here. People think like that can't happen here. Canada is not very different than America. I got news for you. I go there very often. I go to Montreal with my family. Very similar type of country. And he destroyed the middle class because globalism equals elitism. And that's why that woman who's looking at O'Leary, she's like, looks like completely like she can't believe it. Know why? Because she makes tons of money and you don't.
Right.
And she doesn't care.
Right.
And that's what people have to get through their head. You're not part of that country club. The regular man, the regular person in Canada got pummeled. And that would have happened here.
Well, segue, go ahead, keep going because the way I'm going to throw you a softball, underhanded, slow pitch, okay? Segue from that into that third segment about the end of bureaucracy. How do you enforce? Why do you think the mainstream left-wing media is now, again, Joe, I'm sorry. You're in your 50s, I'm in your 50s. When people say, I'm going to digress for a second. When people say that the press is not bought and paid for, would you please go look at those clips? I've never heard them in my life complain about the bureaucracy. If anything, they complained about it as though we need to do something about the bureaucracy. Now, all of a sudden, because Trump's in there saying, I'm gutting the whole freaking thing. Oh, and by the way, I'm bringing in Elon Musk to help me do it. Okay. Now they're lamenting it. Here's the reason why. And I think the two are connected. You mentioned Canada. Trudeau has been able to do everything he's wanted to do in Canada. He's turned it into basically a third world, not quite third world, but certainly not a thriving country as Canada should be. All right. And gutted the middle class and handed them over to Klaus Schwab and Yuval Harari and all the globalists. Okay. They're lamenting the destruction of the administrative state, the bureaucracy, calling it the end of bureaucracy, because that's how you wreck the middle class. You wreck it through the bureaucracy. You wreck it with the EPA. You wreck it with the IRS. You wreck it with the Department of Education. All these things are tied in. Of course, they're lamenting the end of bureaucracy because that's how they keep the middle class down. Joe, go.
But ultimately, they're not part of the regular man. All those people are rich. It's so easy when you live in a bubble. You make $1.4 million a year. A lot of some of them make $7 million a year, those pundits. So it doesn't affect them. And frankly, that's sad because we should care about our fellow man. But they absolutely, listen, if you can't buy food, it's like, oh, well, you can't put fuel in your car. Oh, well. It's like that woman in Canada. Oh, well. Oh,
well.
You can't. A chicken costs $25 for a couple pounds of chicken. Oh, I can afford it.
Sucks to be you. Isn't that their? But real quick, isn't that their attitude? Sucks to be you.
That's right.
I got the back. But I'm going to throw it right back to you. But here's the thing: they say sucks to be you. When Elon gets in there and they start gutting the bureaucratic state, when they drop the hammer on the Department of Education and they do the things they want, you know what my attitude is going to be? Sucks to be you. You got to learn how it is to go out and actually go to work now in the private sector. You got to go get beat up where you don't have, where your bosses could fire you because you're an at-will employee. And you got to make sure you don't make any mistakes, and you got to worry about putting the food on the table. But you don't have to worry about, do you, Mr. Bureaucrat or Mrs. Bureaucrat? Because you're protected. Well, guess what? You ain't protected anymore. So again, I'm going back to this, Joe, and I want your response. Here's my attitude to them. Sucks to be you.
But why would you just step back, like anyone who's listening this, for bureaucracy? Bureaucracy usually is equated with things that are not efficient, things that are not for people.
Right.
Why would you be for red tape? The bureaucracy should go.
Because I don't know how the middle class.
Because they don't care. Class. They don't care. They're not, and that we're going to talk about that later in the show. That's the disconnect between the neoliberal establishment, which now runs the Democratic Party. And I'll be honest with you, I'm rooting for you guys. That doesn't mean I'm going to vote for you. I'm rooting for you that you figure it out. Because the American people gave you a message. This was not about Donald Trump. This election, and we're going to talk about this in a couple of clips, was about one thing and two things. First, people couldn't afford basic necessities. For the last 4 election cycles, 3 of the 4 were run by Democrats. In America, you own it. You can't blame Donald Trump. You had 8 years of Barack Obama and 4 years of Biden, which was the same thing as Obama. You had 12 of the last 16 years. You own it. Issue 2, you opened up the border for political gain and you put pressure on cities. And you don't take my word for it. Listen to the mayor of New York City. He's a liberal.
Right.
You destroyed the infrastructure of cities. And people saw what you did, and they voted against you until you drop this neoliberal mentality. You're not going to win.
You equate neoliberalism with globalism?
100%. Joe, it's 2 things. I heard a few people this week. I've listened to a number of shows, different pundits. across the, the gamut. And there was this one gentleman from Connecticut who was saying we have to appeal to the working man again. He's right. You're not going to win, Democrats, and America is on to you. That's another thing. They're on to you. You tried to outsmart the country. I'm going to tell you what you tried to do in case people missed it. You opened up the border and you were basically trying to steal the country away from the taxpayers with a new voting bloc. And it didn't work. But if it did work and Kamala Harris would have won, the first thing you were going to do is give amnesty to those 12 to 20 million people that came in. Right. And then there would be a one-party system. And you almost pulled it off. But it didn't work. And the people are onto you. You don't appeal to regular people, and they know it. So this gentleman says, we're going to change. Okay, I hope you do. You do realize if you're going to change, you have to do two things. You have to back away from the wokeism and the cultural Marxism, which your particular party has embraced. Oh, I'm going to use that term, cultural Marxism, because that's exactly what it is. Wokeism is cultural Marxism. And two, you have to back away from globalism, which is a cult. It's a climate cult because globalism destroys the middle class. Are you willing to do that? Because you can't have it both ways.
Yeah.
Then you will be for the middle class, and then maybe they'll vote for you. But until
but
you
MAGA's
do that,
got the MAGA movement, which is going to last well beyond Trump. Okay, I believe the MAGA movement, because it's taking on more of a coalition feel, Joe, drawing from the Democrats, the RFK Jr. Democrats, the Tulsi Gabbard Democrats, independents. Again, not everything is going to be to our liking. We have to face facts. Excuse me, as Catholic men, particularly on the issue of abortion, we got to keep fighting that fight. But, it's a shame that we've come here, gotten to this point on abortion. But as a whole, the MAGA movement transcends Donald Trump. It is a coalition.
100%.
And the primary characteristic, because of the wokeism and other really crazy, stupid, evil ideas, is the fact that these are all working class people who want to take care of their kids. Okay, they want to put food on the table. They don't want to pay $8 a gallon. Okay, for milk or gas, for that matter. Okay, and they, for the most part, want to know. They want to know that somebody's fighting for them. They're the working class and the middle class. They're central to this MAGA movement. I don't think the Democrats are going to recover from this anytime soon. You know why? Because I don't think anybody's going to believe them. But here's the thing. I'll tell you what, I'll play it. You listen.
Your statement was met with some sharp reaction as well. This is what Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi had to say. Take a look. I'll get your reaction on the other side.
Bernie Sanders has not won. Let me, with all due respect, and I have a great deal of respect for him, for what he stands for, but I don't respect him saying that the Democratic Party has abandoned the working class families.
Senator, how do you respond to Nancy Pelosi?
Well, Nancy's a friend of mine, and we've worked together on many issues. But here is the reality. I have to say to Nancy, in the Senate in the last 2 years, we have not even brought forth legislation to raise the minimum wage to a living wage, despite the fact that some 20 million people in this country are working for less than $15 an hour. In America today, we have not brought, in the Senate, we have not brought to the floor the PRO Act to make it easier for workers to join unions. We're not talking about defined benefit pension plans so that our elderly can retire with security. We're not talking about lifting the cap on Social Security so that we can extend the solvency of Social Security and raise benefits. Bottom line, if you're an average working person out there, do you really think that the Democratic Party is going to the mats, taking on powerful special interests and fighting for you? I think the overwhelming answer is no. And that.
Now, here's the thing. All the things you said about union and raising the minimum wage, that's where I'm going to argue with Bernie Sanders. Leave it, because those are things where that's his socialism, his socialist brain coming out. Okay. But at the end of it, what he said was absolutely true. Show me where the Democrats have actually concerned themselves with working class Americans, because obviously they become a party of the elite. He left that part out. Okay. So I don't agree with Bernie Sanders' solutions to things, and I would argue with him about those things. However, he's absolutely right that his party does not represent the working class, particularly because I'll go this far. They wouldn't even work with Donald Trump in Donald Trump's first term, okay? Let alone do anything when Biden and the Democrats had all of government. They still didn't do anything because they're the party of the elite. And I'm hoping to God that the Democrat Party does not get its head out of its butt and they stay in the elite circles, because they'll keep losing and MAGA will keep winning. What are your thoughts?
Well, if people don't believe us, listen to Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders, I disagree with his solutions, but I agree with his diagnosis. The average American right now is hurting from coast to coast. He's 100% correct. He's 100% correct. And the Democratic Party is the party, as Joe Pasol said, of the elites. How can I prove that to be accurate? In the Biden term, the last presidential term, 70% of the money in America, as in the top 70%, voted for Joe Biden. The lower 30% voted for Donald Trump. In terms of this election, Kamala Harris had 3 times the money for her campaign that Donald Trump had. 3 times, and she overspent. The money party is the Democratic Party. The numbers speak for themselves, and here you have a member of the party who, at the minimum, is a true believer and is honest with at least himself. You don't have to agree with him. I don't agree with his solutions, but Bernie Sanders is a true believer in what he stands for. And to be honest with you, I can respect him for that. At least he's not owned.
Well, yeah, that I will say. I did want to make one point though, just as an aside, about what he said as far as the first part of that. You know, they go on and on about the fact that there's 20 million Americans that make less than minimum wage. And you know, Joe, that I'm very, very, very familiar with the restaurant industry, the hospitality industry. He conveniently omits that most of those people that make below minimum wage, okay, of that 20 million, are in the hospitality industry and generally are making way more than $20 an hour because they're tipped employees. See, it's like in the state of Arizona, if you're a tipped employee, you make $11.35 an hour because then you make more your money on tips. Same in Jersey. New York's tipped minimum wage is $10. I just want to throw that out there because, Bernie Sanders, he likes to throw around things. He makes it sound like what he's saying is true. Like you said, I can respect the guy because he's a true believing socialist. But I just wanted to correct that. He doesn't ever throw that in. Okay.
No, well, listen, he hasn't. He's trying to pitch, an ideology too. But what he is saying is what the Democratic Party doesn't get, and Nancy Pelosi is in denial. And they packaged that denial around Joe Biden from Scranton, the whole deal, and it didn't work with Harris. Because she didn't have the Uncle Joe's Scranton wrapping paper. And
Can I ask you a question along those lines? Can I ask you something?
Sure.
Do you think that between now and Inauguration Day, we know that they're going to try a lot of nonsense? We know it because scorpions sting. That's what they do. And we've used that analogy a million times at the front line with Joe and Joe. I get the feeling Biden's not going to go for it. I get the feeling that Biden's going to say, you know what? I am an American. Now, whatever other issues he's got with God and the church and his position on abortion and everything else, and heaven knows his corruption, not even talking about that. But he might turn around and say, I'm not going to be the guy that wrecked this country. I'm going to make sure that we have a peaceful transition of power, and I'm not going to go for anything aside from that. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's funny. I listened today to some commentary on his visit to the White House. I have two things to say. Joe Biden called Donald Trump Adolf Hitler and had some very harsh things to say. If he really believed that, would he go to the White House in such a friendly manner? The answer is no, absolutely not. Because if I believe someone was Hitler, I wouldn't go meet him. So that's point one that I want people to think about. Second point is this. Joe Biden got screwed over by the Democratic Party.
Oh, yeah.
That was a soft coup. Joe Biden got screwed over. He did not want to drop out. They twisted his arm. That's undeniable. Now, I'm not in his heart, but I think he's sharp enough to know that they screwed him over. And I'll be honest with you, he has the last laugh. Joe Biden was the president. Joe Biden walks away a multi-millionaire. He's not going to go to jail. And ultimately, the person that they replaced him with got pummeled. So Joe Biden, I don't think, I could be wrong, but I think deep down he's laughing at them because they screwed him and he knows it.
Remember?
And now he has the last laugh.
Joe, let's bring it down to just for a second. All right. If you're joining us here at the front line with Joe and Joe, please share our videos, like, subscribe, help us out, help us reach a much wider audience. X Rumble, Facebook, YouTube. I don't want to get overtly religious, okay? But here's what I'm thinking about Joe Biden, and I pray for it. I've told you this before. He's on a list of people who's in his case is conversion of his heart. He is Roman Catholic, but the conversion of his heart needs to take place. He needs to repent of a lot of things. Okay, we're all in need of repentance, but you know what I'm talking about. But here's the thing: I really like look at this guy like so many characters you see, particularly like in scripture or people throughout history who have repented of their evil deeds. Okay, and they sit there and it's kind of like, what have I done? You know what I mean, Joe? Like a person looks in the mirror and says, what have I done? And Joe Biden is obviously at the end of his life. He's not near the end of his life. He's pretty much at the end of his life. And he might have sat down to Trump and he said, look, we played the political game. I said things I probably should not have said about you. Okay. I'm not going to walk away. I'm not going to step down and let them bring her in and do things that are going to disrupt the country. We're going to have a peaceful transition of power. You have my word. Unless they kill me, you have my word. Do me a favor. If you can find it in your heart, have some mercy on my son. And you never know. I'm not talking about pardoning Hunter Biden, but perhaps commuting his sentence.
I'll be honest with you, I don't think they're going to go after Hunter Biden. Donald Trump, you think about this. Donald Trump could have put Hillary Clinton in prison. She deleted emails.
That's true.
He didn't do it. Donald Trump could have put Comey in prison for the Russiagate stuff. He didn't do it.
Right.
They make Donald Trump out. I'm not saying he's a saint, but what I am saying is there is a part of him, and evidence proves that. That's two people. He could have put her in jail. She deleted a server. You go to jail for that. He didn't do it. He's not going to throw them in jail. I guarantee you that. I will guarantee. And frankly, at this point, what's the point of that?
Well, didn't he say, Joe, didn't Trump say the best revenge is success?
That's 100% right.
And he's right.
100% right. And if I'm going to go after people, I'm going after Fauci. I'm going after Facebook. Like there's bigger fish to fry than Hunter Biden.
I agree with you. But the thing is too, and as I said earlier, please, you're with the front line with Joe and Joe, wherever you're seeing us, help us out, particularly on X and Rumble. Excuse me. And but wherever you are, wherever you're watching this, we appreciate you being in the comment box. Like always, we have a very loyal audience that shows up every week on Thursday nights at 9:00 Eastern time. We'd like to obviously grow that audience. Either way, Joe and I, our show is in the hands of God and Our Lady, and we know that we're helping in some way in the cause. But here's the thing, Joe. There comes a point where we have to stop gushing over people because of the color of their skin or they're a woman or they're gay. When people say stupid things that just you can't understand. Joe, MIT graduates couldn't understand this guy right here. And then they wonder, the Democrats, why people are not willing to vote for them and how so out of touch they are. Let me show you a clip.
right? That whiteness, right, is under threat. The demographic shifts. The country isn't what all of these racially ambiguous children on Cheerios commercials are confusing the hell out of me. Right?
Eddie, a lot of people voted because their life's too damn expensive, and it was here, and it.
They voted for. You're telling me, Stephanie, that all of these people who believe that their lives are, that bread is too high and eggs are too high, that they voted for a convicted fella, a guy who said we can grab the pea.
I think that a lot.
They voted for this
listen,
guy.
I'm not defending it, but I think there are tons of people that don't pay attention to, and I'm not defending it, don't pay attention to politics at all. But while we live in the most prosperous country in the world, people are saying life's not fair. I'm not doing well. My son's still living in the basement. I can't seem to get a job. I don't like the status quo. I'm voting for something else. And he was
I
the person.
love you to life.
I love you.
But I do not believe that. I cannot believe that. And the reason I think you believe it is because you don't want to believe that that's what's really motivating them. It's always the case. People don't want to believe what the country actually is, because if they believe it, they're going to have to confront what's in them. I don't believe that.
Dude,
Okay.
he's demented. That is,
No,
dude, he's delusional.
That guy is completely
delusional.
See, he doesn't have Trump derangement syndrome. He's unhinged and unmoored from reality.
Oh, Joe, I'll be honest with you. Tons of people are.
Did you see his title, though? Did you see his title, what he is?
No, I don't know who he is.
Princeton University professor.
Okay, perfect.
Eddie Glaude. Listen.
Perfect.
See, there's another guy at Princeton, Cornel West. Okay, a lot of people know Cornel West. I disagree with Cornel West on everything. Okay, I don't consider Cornel West to be unhinged or insane. Okay, I firstly believe, just from my personal point of view, that you can't be friends with Professor Robert George if you're an insane, unhinged person. You're not. Robbie George is not going to, really have time for that. Cornel West is a smart guy who I disagree with on everything. That guy should not be anywhere near college students.
Oh, 100%. But Joe, I'll give you an example of that derangement. People who are very upset about the abortion issue in America. My daughter can't get an abortion. Abortion's legal. Like, I feel like saying to them, and I'm not for abortion, but they believe the propaganda. You can get an abortion in America, in every single state.
That's right.
What are you talking about? Like that's how unhinged it is. There's no logic to it. And those people, to a degree, I feel sorry for, because they belong to a cult. So much so, women are shaving their head.
Joe, well, that guy belongs to the race cult. The women shaving their head, they belong to the feminist cult. They are see, this is why I get very upset. People say you get angry at people when you have political conversations, because I don't like when people say that about me, because I know for a fact, and it's now on public record, because we've been doing this show since 2018, that we have shown time and time and time again that we're not knee-jerk ideologues. We want practical solutions to things where we can negotiate, and we're not going to negotiate on fundamental issues such as life, abortion, okay? Boys being boys and girls being girls. I think that's a very sane way to approach things, and I'm not a member of a cult. I can look at the other side. I could talk to a Robert F. Kennedy Jr. or a Tulsi Gabbard, okay? I can, okay? You can't talk to guys like that. That guy's whole worldview is race. Just like if you talk to a feminist, their whole worldview is patriarchy. It's patriarchy. It's patriarchy. That guy can't understand what that woman, the other reporter, was so clearly stating, not in a bomb-throwing ideological way. Just people are upset because prices are too damn high, and he can't get it through his head. He's saying, you don't really care the prices are so high. You're just a damn racist.
Well, because he makes tons of money. You see, this is again like where you just look at people like, you don't get it. He doesn't get it, and he's very smart. It has nothing to do with intelligence. Joe, these people have been basically propagandized, if that's such a word. Propaganda has seeped into their being, and they can't listen to logic or reason. I just gave you a perfect example. I'll give you another example. The homosexual population in America. Donald Trump's not doing anything. The
Great
only thing,
video. Great video, by the way, going around. Now, again, everybody knows our stance on homosexuality, but I thought it was kind of like jabbing the radical homosexual left. All gays and lesbians. The camera was like bouncing off, like from one, and they were passing it off to another, and the clip would cut to another person, basically saying, Donald Trump's not going to. I'm gay, and I
he's
voted for
not going to
Donald
do
Trump.
anything.
Not
And
do
this
anything
is
for
what
you.
I'm saying. It's
Right.
And then on the flip side of it, you have Whoopi Goldberg on The View who says that he's going to break up interracial marriages. That is so ignorant and foolish and a lie. And people believe it. And this is what I'm saying, Joe, this is nothing more than, frankly, it's a derangement syndrome.
Yeah.
That man is not living and breathing the same air as everybody else. And that woman, in a nice way, who votes the same way he does, is trying to point that out to him. And he
He
refuses
ain't
to
having it.
accept it. And that's where a lot of people are right now.
Right.
You can't have that conversation. And it's not trying to be mean. It's just basically pointing out some realities. Reality.
But you're talking about them like they with Joe. The whole one of the reasons why we even do this show is because we're talking about people, excuse me, who are not grounded in reality at all. I mean, you just look at the transgender issue. Because if you live in an ideological bubble, if you see the world in a way that you can't even think for a second of that somebody else has a different opinion than you. I'm not telling this gentleman who's a Princeton professor, I'm not telling him not to argue a point of view. We don't agree with, we're Roman Catholic. We believe in everything the Roman Catholic Church teaches. That means I'm not gonna get all unhinged because a Protestant disagrees with it. I'll say, well, you want to have a conversation about that? You want to go online? We'll do a little chit chat and we'll make it public and we'll talk about sola scriptura, this and that. I'm not going to get bent out of shape. I'm not going to start. My world is not coming to an end because somebody doesn't agree with me. Okay, on a number of issues. With this guy, it's like he looks shattered, Joe. He looks so weak. Like, I don't even know if you could call him a man because he's so weak. Like, Joe, I heard a story the other day, and it's sad. I know someone who indirectly I work with, okay? She had mentioned to me that a friend of hers committed suicide last Tuesday. Now,
No
she didn't
way,
say,
dude.
no, and she didn't say why, but the thought really crossed my head because you're seeing all these people online that this girl might have killed herself because Donald Trump got elected.
You know what it is, Joe? This is their religion. You see, I'll be honest with you. If Kamala Harris would have won, I would have been upset. I wouldn't have been depressed, manically depressed. I would have been upset because, to be honest with you, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden and Barack Obama have outwardly persecuted my religion. And I can give many instances of it. I am not interested in their ideology. And I believe, and I'm entitled to my belief, just like you're entitled to yours, that their ideology will hurt my children. Yet I still wouldn't have been manically depressed because I'm grounded in something else. They're not. And that it's the same thing what happened during COVID. Now, I had two elderly parents. One of my parents, my father, who's passed during COVID, was bedridden. He had Parkinson's disease. I was very afraid that he was going to die from COVID. With all that said, though, I believe in an afterlife. I believe in Christ, and I'm a Roman Catholic, and so are my parents. So I have a grounding. They don't. And why do I bring that up? That's why many people during that period were off the hook nuts, dude. They were nuts. I had a dude at work. Because I had to take the shot to keep my job. I got the first Pfizer shot. I was in between the second one. Dude, he didn't want me to stand 6 feet next to him. I was like, this dude's nuts.
Right.
like nuts.
Well,
And
remember, we had that conversation back then. Because we were communicating, like the way we do now, and yeah, those people, because when you have, which many people do, have a materialist worldview, of either atheist or agnostic worldview, then this life is all that you have.
that's my point.
And you cling to it to the point where a woman was telling two kids who were playing way past 6 feet in a patch of grass, all right, over the fence. She's yelling over the fence at these two kids throwing a football during COVID. She said, I hope you both die of COVID.
I
This is
remember
a
that clip.
grown-ass woman who's telling two 11, 12-year-old kids throwing around a football during COVID. They're outside breathing fresh air. I hope the two of you die of COVID, of the disease you're spreading.
Well,
Joe, the only thing you can say is, like I said, these are people who have no hope, and they want to rub off that hopelessness on the rest of us.
Well, I'll be honest with you. They're just clinging. They're clinging at straws. It's, to be honest with you, it's kind of sad. I'm not trying to speak from a position of superiority. It's sad. And that gentleman is sad. Something's wrong. You have, and this is what I suggest to people. Get out of your echo chamber. Listen to other people. Talk to different people. I recently posted that. Like, I talk to my neighbors when I do my lawn and when I shovel snow, when I'm outside, like doing work around the house on Saturday, because they're doing it too. And we'll talk. They don't see the world like I do, but it puts a human face on a person that you disagree with civilly. We have to learn to do that again. Talk to people. Too many people listen to the same stuff. It's not healthy. It's not healthy. We lose our ability to critically think. We just listen to the same nonsense, and it has affected people like that man. And he's very smart. And to be honest with you, he's mentally ill.
He is. No, he's definitely mentally ill. And I want to hear at the front line with Joe and Joe. I want to move on to Charlie Kirk, just because he's got a really good clip out there. But you also got to remember something too, Joe. You're not a theologian, you're not a Bible scholar, but if somebody wanted to come up to you and challenge you about the Catholic faith, you'd say, okay, you want to sit down and talk? You would do it. You're not fearful. You'd make an argument. If somebody makes a good point, you could credit them with a good point. You could go back and forth. You could have, Isaiah says it in Scripture. Come, let us reason together. You're willing to do that. I'm willing to do that because we are certain of our worldview. All right, and we're willing to argue that point in a loving, respectful way with other people. That guy there, to put a final point on it, he can't get out in the public arena and argue that point of view. That's why he's in the ivory tower bubble of Princeton University, where he probably never gets challenged. He's on CNN there, right? Because it's a place he's not going to get challenged, okay? Because that guy, honestly, he probably truly doesn't believe his own BS. And he's so fearful that you actually are going to have people now, again, because of Trump and Elon Musk, that, yeah, we could argue with him. And because he can't defend his irrationality, okay, because that's what he is, he's irrational and unhinged, that's what makes him angry. That's what makes him dangerous, by the way. And people like him because they can't argue with you. So what they want to do is they want to eliminate you, whether it's figuratively, or we know this about Marxists, literally, you have to go. Shut you down or take you out into the guillotine in the public square, one way or the other, because, Joe, they're not equipped. Like you said, it's a religion they can't even. You and I are religious. We could defend our religion. They can't defend theirs. I'll give you the final word on that, Joe.
Well, like I said, we got to give people time. You got to give people space. And frankly, what I suggest to people is listen to different voices. That's how you have, it's almost like when dude, it's a cult, Joe. They said Trumpism is a cult. I actually think this is more of a cult. There's aspects to the Trump MAGA movement that is cultish too. I'm not, in fairness, I don't consider myself MAGA. I voted This election, I don't even think was about Trump. It was establishment versus anti-establishment. That's why RFK is on Trump's ticket.
Which is kind of MAGA, though. Anti-establishment, going after the deep state against a bureaucratic state. I would say that it's that part of MAGA that I would say, oh yeah, okay, I'm with you guys, and I generally agree with MAGA as a movement. Probably more federalism, bring much more things back to the states. First Amendment, Second Amendment, Fourth and 14th Amendment. Like I would be MAGA in that way. I think the primary thing would be anti-establishment. Like
that's what drove me. Like with this election, I could just speak for me, and I think a lot of people have had it with both parties. But again,
well, hold that thought. Hold that thought, because I want to go to the both parties thing. Hold on.
Senator John Thune from South Dakota. Now, this audience did not want Senator Thune. We were enthusiastically behind Senator Rick Scott. And the vote totals went like this. In the first volley of votes, Senator John Thune did not get a majority. He received a plurality. Then, after the second round of votes, he is Senate Majority Leader. The first round of votes was like this: 23 for John Thune, 15 for Mr. Cornyn, and then 13 for Rick Scott, 27 in order to pass. A second round of voting occurred, and John Thune is now Senate Majority Leader, 29 votes to 24 votes. Now, mind you, that is one of the closer votes that we have seen in quite some time. Now, look, I'm not going to spend our time attacking John Thune. He's in charge. What I will say is this is John Thune has a short window to show us who he is, to show us what he's made of. I'm willing to say, okay, fine. Everyone says that you're a rhino. Everyone says that you're a gutless wonder. Maybe you are, maybe you aren't. You have a short window to show us that you will support President Trump, fill his cabinet, confirm his judges, pass his agenda, do recess appointments, keep the Senate operational for 24 hours. If Chuck Grassley has to go take a nap, that's fine. We're not going to put up with this. Senate goes into the Senate goes into nap time for a couple days. Look, our movement is ascendant, and they know this. This is a very, very tight Senate majority election.
Let's leave it there. Charlie, spot on. Okay. To me, it's like, you watch Star Wars, okay, and then obviously in the first one, the first Star Wars, at the end, Luke Skywalker comes in, he makes that final shot, and the two bombs go down the thing. And if you were saying it like an Italian guy from North, the two things go down the thing. It goes to the middle of the big planet thing, Death Star, and boom, it all gets blown up. Okay, so and that's the way. That's election. That's the election. That's on the Death Star, you have Kamala Harris, you have their entire administration, Joe Biden, boom, they go into smithereens. That's Star Wars. But there's a sequel. And the sequel is The Empire Strikes Back. And the thing is, because remember, Darth Vader goes flying out in space and he comes back and the Empire Strikes Back. Right now, as far as I'm concerned, until I see different, I would say to Charlie Kirk, I'm with him. John Thune is the Empire striking back until he shows me he's part of the resistance, until he shows me he's part of the rebellion. Okay. Because I'm going to tell you something. These recess appointments, Joe, mean a lot. This is going to lay the groundwork for what he intends to do, because I'm going to throw this over to you. You could say what you want about Mitch McConnell, and you and I have a lot of differences, and so do people like Charlie Kirk, and I agree with Charlie Kirk on that. Okay. Mitch McConnell did not let Trump down when it came to judges. That is a very big thing that conservatives need to give Mitch McConnell credit for. Now, is he establishment rhino in every other way? Yeah. But on judges, he held the line. He didn't let Schumer and the rest of them push him around, and he gave Trump his judges. All right. I don't know that John Thune's going to do that. So right now, to me, John Thune, he's Darth Vader, and Trump is Luke Skywalker.
This is the worst news since the election happened. Obviously, Trump didn't have, a say in it because it was a vote within the Senate, but it shows you the us versus them, and the them is the establishment. And John Thune is no different than Hillary Clinton in many ways. It's the same animal. And frankly, he can cause a world of hurt. And what has to happen, and I think Trump and J.D. Vance are smart enough to know, J.D. Vance, because he's the vice president, does have a say in the Senate, and he's going to have to be very active in that Senate to keep his thumb on John Hume, because he could slow a lot of things down. John Hume is going to organize the committees. John Hume can table legislation. He could do a lot. And this is McConnell's revenge on Donald Trump, because he's exactly the same animal as McConnell, as Hillary Clinton is. They all belong to the same country club, and you're not invited. And this goes to show you what this election was about. John Thune, to be honest with you, when I saw that, I just said, oh my gosh, here we go. And that's why J.D. Vance is going to have to be in that Senate and be all over him.
He's going to have to be a presence like there'd never been.
Every single I would be there every day, in fact.
Right. John Thune cannot get away with the establishment is gone. And the rhinos need to understand. John Thune needs to understand. You'll go next, pal. If you do this, and Cornyn and the rest. I mean, I'm really surprised. I heard people like Josh Hawley voted for John Thune, at least on the first vote. All right. I don't know if he voted for Rick Scott on the second. He was on a list that was on X. Again, I'm not going to say that I'm confirming that one way or the other, but there were some people on that list, and I'm like, really?
The thing is, the job itself, you're a cat chaser. You see, you got to keep this in mind too. His job is to round people up. You got to talk to everybody. It's almost like maybe the thinking was, and it's not my thinking, that they won't talk to Rick Scott because he's more of an ideologue. You need somebody who's going to be able to round up all the cats. With that said, that was Trump's mistake in the first term. Let's talk about some other appointments. The Rubio appointment, humongous mistake. He's another bomb. There's not a war that he has didn't like. He is a neocon and he is a war hawk. You do not put him in the cabinet. I don't know why he is there. He is a disaster. When I saw that, I was like, didn't you learn? He's no different than what's his face who was there, the last guy from West Point who was he said
Bolton.
No, who was the last state Secretary of State? What's his face? The Italian guy, heavy set.
Not Pompeo.
Yeah, Mike Pompeo.
Oh, okay. Well, he was Secretary of State, then the head of the CIA, right?
Correct. That dude was a bomb. He's just like him. And this is what I'm saying. Why would you invite him in? I don't get it. There's tons of other people you could have chosen. That was deeply disappointing.
And let's talk about something. We're not going to get too into the weeds on it, okay? You see, take for argument's sake, I don't know where Rubio was as far as funding the war in the Ukraine. Take Israel and okay. Problem.
That's what I'm saying.
Big
I don't
problem.
know why you would do that. Now,
Yeah, the
he's
other thing
not
is
the
this.
president. Like,
Go ahead.
he's not the president, but he's boots on the ground. He's going to have the president's ear, and I'm not interested in what he has to whisper.
Right,
You
especially if
don't
it's going to be, especially since we're going to be looking with Elon Musk to take trillions of dollars off our federal budget, try to get some semblance of reasonably controlling the purse. Okay, doing away with federal agencies, and what are you gonna do? You're gonna tell Trump we have to send another $100 billion to the Ukraine?
That's what I'm saying. That was a huge. I don't know what was going on there. That was foolish. You should have learned from your mistake the first time around. Horrible.
I agree,
But
Joe. I do
Thune-
want. Go ahead, please.
No, I was going to say, but Thune, that's not his mistake, but that is a remnant of the establishment, and they're still in power. They're still there, and they're going to fight him, and they better be on that. Charlie Kirk is right. I'm not giving him the benefit of the doubt, though. Sorry. Right. I would be all over him. In fact, I would say to him in no uncertain terms, if I was Trump, I would have called him, and I would have said, I'm going to tell you straight out, dude, you start pulling crap, everything I have is coming after you. everything. I will use my bully pulpit to destroy you. I'm telling you that straight to your face. So you better come in line. If you pull any nonsense, I will do everything within my power to take you out, because they have a 2-year window, Joe. This is never going to happen again in our lifetime. Write that down, everybody. And
This is
John
the
Thune could
opportunity.
screw it up.
This is the opportunity, like you said, especially when it comes to election reform, when it comes to all those things. Where's Thune going to come down on that? Because let's remember, it was the Rhino. It wasn't because the Democrats that Trump got attacked necessarily in 2020. It was his own party. It was the John Thunes of the world, okay, that didn't give Trump, that stabbed him in the back, that didn't even want to see the evidence. They didn't want to see any of that stuff. John Thune's not a friend of ours. I used to like him a few years ago. I don't anymore. He's completely establishment, all right? I will say this, though, about Marco Rubio, and this is what bothers me about him. And I was people forget, Rubio is pretty much firmly establishment right now. Rubio came in the Tea Party wave, okay, back during Obama's first term. He rode that wave, and he is so entrenched with the establishment. I'll tell you a disqualifier. Good people of goodwill can have differences on how to approach what's going on between Israel and the Palestinians in Gaza. People of goodwill can have legit disagreements. When you say, as a senator in the United States, when you're on camera saying, no, I'm absolutely in favor of whatever Israel needs to do especially vis-a-vis, the reporter was asking him about the attacking civilian targets and all that kind of stuff. When you raise your fist in the air and say, I'm all for it because these people are savages, referring to the Palestinians, Joe, I'm sorry, in my heart, again, I'm trying to be as objective as I can. That's not really goodwill disagreement.
No. But let me ask you this. Is Rubio evangelical?
I'm not sure. I would bet my bottom dollar he was born Catholic.
So would I. The reason why I say that is Huckabee is all for that because it's baked into the evangelical ideology. They believe from a religious perspective that it is a birthright. Like Huckabee, I heard this out of his own mouth because he's the ambassador of Israel. There is no such word as settlement. There is no such word as West Bank. They don't view it. They look at it through a purely literal biblical lens. That's the evangelical mindset. To be honest with you, what I would say is on that, to your point, we could agree to disagree. At the end of the day, Israel's not innocent in this game, nor
that's
are the Palestinians. But to have that mindset, I don't think is helping the situation.
Well, I don't think you're a friend of Israel, and a lot of. But Joe, let's be clear about this. There's a lot of Israelis that disagree with.
Oh, 100. Good point. That's a fact. That's in fact, Huckabee's point of view is more radical than many Israelis' point of view. Many.
Most Israelis want peace.
That's right.
Okay. And they make their voices known in Israel. Okay, ostensibly Israel is still a democracy. They make their voices known. The fact is, Netanyahu and his party are very powerful. My only larger point is I find it to be disqualifying to hold a position like Secretary of State. You see, we're Catholic. We believe in just war theory, that there are times to fight, and that's where I will defend Israel. Nobody's saying that you can't defend yourself. Nobody's saying you don't have the right to even go on the attack, okay? But when you make it your business and your only justification for all the tens of thousands of dead Palestinians is we're upset with them because what they make us do to them, that's really a faulty way of looking at the world on their point of view. And yeah, if you want to be Secretary of State, if your attitude is Israel could do whatever it wants because those people are savages, and again, I'm paraphrasing Marco Rubio, I got a problem with you, dude. I got a real problem with you.
That's always been the Americans' policy. At least it's honest now. Like, meaning at least it's even under Biden. Biden talked out of both sides of his mouth. That was Biden's policy to a larger degree. He just had to appease a piece of his base.
Right.
Like, ultimately, I don't know how that's going to get resolved. And that's not really what I want to focus on when it comes to Rubio. What I do want to focus on is he's a rhino and he's a neocon and he's part of the establishment and he should never have been in that cabinet. And the Thune situation, JD Vance better be all over it because he could ruin it. He could ruin it. He is not for, like I said, I put him in the same bucket as Hillary Clinton. Same bucket, and it's McConnell orchestrated that. McConnell was no friend of the American people. He's part of, as Mike Lee calls it, the firm, the head of the House, the head of the Senate, and basically they come together and they basically cut a deal, and that deal has nothing to do with the people.
Well, they could argue in the Senate all they want, but the fact is, guys like that, the rhinos and the Democrats, they have a common enemy, and that's Donald Trump. That I'm going to start moving forward, Joe, moving it a little bit away from Trump and say their enemy is MAGA. Their enemy is the anti-disestablishmentarianism, if that was a big word from that we learned when we were kids. The anti-establishment. What do you want to call it? You want to call it, I think the Germans would call it Zeitgeist. The spirit of the age right now in America is we're against the establishment. The establishment is, we could go line by line, going back decades, how the establishment has wrecked this country on both sides, okay? From wages to trade, to taxes, to inflation, to all of it, to moving to destroying the middle class, okay? All of it. Okay. So you know what? They say politics makes strange bedfellows. Okay. The Republicans and the establishment of Republicans and the Democrats have a common enemy, and that is MAGA. They don't want to see $2 trillion shaved off the federal budget. They don't want to see half the federal bureaucracy get basically taken out by Elon Musk. They certainly don't want to see Robert F. Kennedy Jr. By the way, did you know he was named the head of Health and Human Services?
Great.
If he stays in his lane and stays away from abortion, I'm all with him. I'm with them 1,000%. Just Bobby, don't talk about abortion, and we're okay. Just focus on health and focus on the pharmaceutical industry. They're going to hate him too. They already hate him.
Oh, the market reacted today already. It went down. Actually,
good. I heard the heads of the major pharmaceutical companies had a big teleconference last week.
Good.
The day after election. You guys better be quaking in your boots. And yeah, if I own pharmaceutical stocks right now, no, I won't say it because somebody will construe it as investment advice. All I'm saying is this: I wouldn't take my money and put it into a pharmaceutical stock right now because, Donald Trump and working with RFK Jr., they're gonna wreck the golden goose. So, so we're going a little longer tonight, but we're happy to do so. I'm over my sickness, so I'm not like I'm not running away like I did last week and just crawling back in the bed. But you're at the front line with Joe and Joe. Please like, subscribe, and share. Help us out. That's all we ask for is just try to get our conversations out to a wider audience. So whether you're seeing us on X, Rumble, Facebook, or YouTube. So, Joe, I got a couple clips I want to play back to back, and then we'll see what the comment box has to say, and then I'm going to see what you have to say.
By congratulating President-elect Trump on his impressive victory this morning. The Prime Minister and the Foreign Secretary met him in September. Did the Foreign Secretary take that opportunity to apologize for making derogatory and scatological references, including, and I quote, Trump is not only a woman-hating, neo-Nazi sympathizing sociopath, he is also a profound threat to the international order. And if he did not apologize, will the Prime Minister do so now on his behalf?
The Foreign Secretary and I did meet President-elect Trump just a few weeks ago for dinner for about a couple of hours, and we discussed a number of issues of global significance. It was a very constructive exercise.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister did not distance himself from the remarks made by the Foreign Secretary, and I'm very sure that President Trump will soon be calling to thank him for sending all of those North London Labour activists to campaign for his opponent.
Only different is that he now has a kind of coterie of oligarchs, including the richest man in the world,
who've kissed the ring, worked to get him elected, and are now apparently going to be running America. Now, this is a model that's actually familiar across the world. It's pioneered and perfected by strongmen like Viktor Orban in Hungary and Recep Erdogan in Turkey, and of course, Vladimir Putin in Russia. All of these rulers have their little crew of corporate and industrial titans who often hold no official government titles, but do the work of the regime in ways large and small, legitimate and otherwise, in return for their access and special privileges, including squeezing the state coffers to line their own pockets. As The Atlantic's Franklin Fort puts it, the regime does the bidding of the billionaires, and in turn, the billionaires do the bidding of the regime. Power grows ever more concentrated.
I can only watch so much of that drivel because now let's talk about now. Let's pair these videos a little bit. Number one, I dig the black chick conservative with the English accent. Okay, I really do, especially since she's giving it to Keir Starmer and the foreign secretary. So Keir Starmer says we talk about issues of global concern. Okay, right? Because you're an oligarch. You're an oligarch here. That's what you are. Your interest is in globalism, and the oligarchs are behind that whole movement. That gentleman there, what's his name? Chris Hayes.
I don't even know what the heck.
I don't even know. I don't even want to know their names. Joe, it bothers me in my heart and my soul that I know Brian Stelter's name. Okay, I wish I never. It bothers me that I know Joy Reid's name. These people shouldn't even have a platform. They would never survive. I mean, you and I, we we're growing slowly, but nonetheless we're growing. We earn our audience. These people, they get paid a few dollars. They go on there and they just spout things that their bosses tell them to spout. They don't even have ideas in their head. But Chris Hayes is, Joe, I know that we use the word projection a lot at the front line with Joe and Joe. Elon Musk is going to look to enrich himself by joining the Trump administration. Is that a joke? Do you know this guy at all? Do you look at him objectively at all? The oligarchs are going to be running the Trump administration. The oligarchs are the ones that want John Thune to be the Senate Majority Leader.
That's
Joe,
exactly
please take
right,
it away from me, Joe. Take it away from me, Joe.
That was pure projection. What he was saying is pure projection. What do you think has been going on in America probably since 1920? The oligarchs run America, and that's what Trump ran against. Elon Musk has teamed up with him. You know something? I have no problem with it. Elon Musk is not giving his own money to Donald Trump. Elon Musk used his money because he saw the danger of what was about to happen to this country. He saw the danger. We owe Elon Musk a great debt, if you ask me. If you ask me, we do. Because if Twitter did not get purchased by him, the likelihood that Trump would have won is probably very small. Right. Because the people of America have a controlled filter, which is the mainstream media, and they're not informed. And that is why Donald Trump won. And I have no problem with what that was about. Sorry, no problem at all. And the oligarchs run this country because they run our politicians who don't listen to the voice of the people, Democrat or Republican. That dude was only speaking out of pure projection. As far as what's going on in England, the Donald Trump effect is going to have a wave across the world because the oligarchs and globalism is a real deal, and it's much further along in Europe, in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, much further along. And this is going to have an effect. You're going to see it in Ireland. You're going to see it in England. You're going to see it in mainland Europe because people have had it. The regular man and the middle class have been ground into the dirt, and you cannot be a globalist and be for the middle class. And Donald Trump, the very fact that he got elected is going to, I'll be truthful with you, I'm sure the globalists are quaking in their boots across the globe.
They should be. And here's another thing about him that I don't like, this reporter, is you call Viktor Orban a strong man?
Oh,
like he's got oligarchs behind him and they're persecuting the Hungarian
horrible.
people. He shut down the border to protect the Hungarian people. He shut down the border because he is the president of really what is a Catholic nation. You can't even say Christian. You got to say Catholic when you're talking about Hungary, okay? We've interviewed Edward Habsburg on the show, of the Habsburgs. Okay, very Catholic over there. And you see, this is where they don't care if they're insulting, and that's why I don't say phrases anymore like that could be misconstrued. But let's put it like this: I hope he slips on a banana peel while he's walking down the sidewalk. Chris Hayes, how's that? Okay, because when you say that, what you're doing is because again, the first clip was the conservative MP challenging Keir Starmer and the foreign secretary for having called Trump a fascist, Nazi, everything else. What Chris Hayes was doing in that clip, he's calling Trump that, of course, Elon Musk that, of course, but also people like Viktor Orban. All right. And when I say anybody who stands on principle, anybody who even remotely for a second, Joe Rosanello, stands on principle and says, we're your way, we tried it. We're not for it, and we're not going to waver on that. Let's take immigration. We're shutting our border, like Viktor Orban, like Trump is going to deport. Tom Homan is going to deport, Joe, millions of people. He is going, starting with criminals. He's going to do it, and Trump is going to finish that wall. They have to use these words like strawman and Nazi and everything else. Is Donald? Let me ask you this. Is kicking out all the convicted or criminal illegal aliens, is that going to oppress a typical liberal woman living in the suburbs? Is Donald Trump being a strong man against his own people when he does that by telling criminal illegals you got to go? Do you see where I'm going with that?
Well, ultimately, what people have to see is the common thread between all the globalists. They all opened their border. Ask yourself why. Do you think it was because they care about those people? No, they're using those people to vote against their own people who pay taxes so their ideology can go forward. That's all that's about. That's all it's about. They're using those people as a tool. They're doing it. They're doing it in every single country. It's the same playbook, just like we played in the beginning of the show. It's about bureaucracy. It's about bureaucracy. It's the same playbook. And in many cases, I can't speak for other countries. Well, I can speak for Italy. A lot of people coming from Africa going across the sea are drowning. As far as crossing our own border, countless people have died. Countless women have been raped. Countless children have been trafficked. All in the name of political power, all in the name of globalism. It's dark and it's evil. And it's also destroying the working class because those people, and they know this too, are diluting the workforce, driving wages down, and raising rents in the neighborhoods of people who are working and tax-paying Americans. That's a fact. They know that too, and they don't care.
No, they don't.
And this is a reality. And people have to look reality in the face, not like that gentleman from Princeton who refuses to look at reality. But that's why it's a sickness. It literally is. It's a sickness, Joe. In many ways, I feel sorry for people because they've been brainwashed by their own press, by their own country, and it's going to take a long time to unwind.
It is. It is. I mean, like you said, Charlie Kirk said that John Thune's got a short window. And he does. We know that even if it was Rick Scott, the Republicans are probably going to have 2 years. Even though I'm not buying, I'm going to throw one more thing over to you, and then don't leave, everybody, when we sign off. We got to play a final clip for you to send you off. I'm not buying this idea of, the midterm elections always go against the incumbent president. If Trump actually does the MAGA plan, the agenda, okay, starting with the bureaucracy and the wall and all that, okay, I don't see a reason why the American people would vote in a House and Senate that would go against them. But leaving that aside, we have 2 years. We have 2 years that I've said this before, Joe, and then I want a final comment, and then we're going to take off. We always talk about the long march through the institutions. Okay, Antonio Gramsci, Rudi Dutschke, starting in the 1920s. Dutschke was a German radical in the 1960s. I think it was Baader Meinhof. Anyway, you have this long march through the institutions. My view is that, well, you don't have to do that when you have truth on your side. It's not going to take 70 years to march them out. It takes an act of your will to march them out. No, it's just get them out of the institutions. Use whatever power when you have it and just get them out. It's like it doesn't have to take 70 years. Why? Because they have to do a slow march through the institutions because their march is based on lies. Their Marxist lies. When you have truth on your side, well, you could do things like that, okay? Because if you have truth on your side, obviously you have God on your side. So my point is this. 2 years is plenty of time to put this country not only to make a significant dent towards the direction we need to go, but set such a precedent, set such a new a new alignment in this country moving forward that for all subsequent, let's call them Republicans for now, Republican presidents who agree with MAGA, it would be a lot easier to continue to process. You don't have to wait 70 years. If you have the stones and the power, which you do, you have the power now, okay, and you have some political will, Joe, it won't take long to dismantle what has taken them decades, our enemies decades, to build up. I think you know where I'm going.
I hope so, Joe. I do think that they have a lot of things in place, particularly about gutting the bureaucracy, to use the word that we were focusing on in the beginning of the show. It needs to be gutted. We have to return the power back to the people. That's what the founders wanted. That's what America was all about. And that's not what America is today. America is about an institutional democracy, which doesn't listen to people. That has to end. And I hope this is a new beginning.
I think you're right. I will say this, and then we're going to go, is that use I would test my theory by what goes on at the Department of Education. It took decades to build up that Department of Education to the monstrous demon that it is, okay, that seeks to do nothing but indoctrinate our kids and keep them stupid, okay, by telling them what to think. Donald Trump can literally wreck that. What took them 40 years to build, he could wreck it with one act and totally dismantle the whole thing, as he said, and send everything back to the States. I hope he uses that as an example of what I just said. You don't have to wait decades. You have the power that the American people gave you. Now you have to have the will. And you could really do a lot of good just within that first 2 years. So thank you, everybody, for joining us here. Don't go anywhere. We're going to send you off with a clip for a couple minutes. And remember to join us Thursday nights, 9 o'clock Eastern time, where we go live, X Rumble, Facebook, and YouTube. We want to thank you always, everybody in the comment box, the chat room, for your support, and you're helping us out all the time. We have such a good, loyal fan base, and we want to continue to watch it to grow. So thank you again. And remember, until the next time, that our conversation is your conversation, and that conversation is going on everywhere. We'll talk to you soon.
Numbers, but I think it bears repeating. The federal government spent over $66 billion on illegal immigrants in 2023, according to the Federation for American Immigration. Does anyone here want to guess how much we've spent on homeless veterans in 23? Guess? High? Well, let's just start. Higher, lower, the same? Anybody want to guess?
Fractional.
Fractional. Thank you. 3 billion. 66 on illegals, 3 billion on people who have laid down their lives for this country. Can anyone explain up there why that makes sense?
Well, one is including all sorts of benefits, and one is just looking at a very, very narrow slice.
No, I'm using the same numbers. Sir, you are. I am using apples to apples.
It would be a very different.
I'm using apples to apples. So since you know, why don't you share with me?
We don't track U.S. We don't track U.S. veterans in the census, so that would be very helpful if we did. Then I would be able to give you a very.
But do you know the answer? Because I do. I do. So I appreciate your opinion of which you have no facts on, but let me continue and let me educate you some more. The federal government, breaking that $66 billion down, let's look at what we fund. So you might want to get a pencil and paper and take some notes because I'll help you do your job. 5.8 billion in SNAP, 10 billion in Medicare, 8.2 billion in uncompensated hospital expenditures, 3 billion for primary and secondary education for illegal immigrants, And how many illegal immigrants are given taxpayer-funded housing compared to the number of homeless veterans that are sleeping on the street? You don't know because you don't want to know. You don't want to see the numbers. Well, I do, and I can share with you the American people do. Because I'll share with you, the people in my district, in Michigan, of the 9th District, we care about our homeless veterans. We care about our veterans. And yes, we care about them a little bit more than we care about people who have broken the law to get here illegally. So I actually have some suggestions, and maybe some answers on how to fix it. Instead of $66 billion, here are a couple things we could spend. The White House has requested $13 million for the National Call Center for homeless veterans. I'm going to say it again, $13 million with an M, right? Maybe we could find that out of that $66 billion, right, different between million and billion, big difference, we could funnel some more of that $66 billion to our homeless veterans. Anyone opposed to that? Why aren't we doing it? Why aren't we doing it? Anybody got an idea? Anybody got an idea? Why we're not, God bless you, why we're not doing it? I'll tell you why we're not doing it, because the Biden administration does not want to do it. Am I correct? Am I incorrect on that? I didn't think so.